Hi everyone, my name is Waleed. I'm a third year law student and I'm going to be one of your careers officers for this year.
Hi everyone, I'm Grace. I'm a second year student and I'm going to be one of your careers officers this year.
We built a presentation for any student who's looking to survive the application cycle, as the title says. So without any hesitation, let's just start the presentation. So the topics we're going to be discussing in this video are two: preparing for the application cycle and managing with the application cycle. So it's very important to have some sort of idea before you start applying to any firms on how to prepare really for, such as researching or gaining experience or building your CV and resume. Those are very important factors just before you start getting into the application cycle. And then while you're in the application cycle, you kind of need to know how to manage with it. So Grace and I are going to explain both the details for both scenarios. And at the end of the video, we're also going to provide a cycle outline indicating the time periods where you might be throughout the whole application cycle. And we're going to conclude afterwards. So let's move to the next slide. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is preparation, and especially working on your resume. So Grace, do you want to go ahead and start with gaining experience?
Yeah, so the first thing we want to properly talk about is kind of gaining experience before you submit any applications. So in kind of any application you might submit, whether it will be for kind of a commercial firm, maybe even a criminal barrister chamber, they're going to want to see that you've got some kind of tangible experience. However, it's really important to note, like, it doesn't need to be legal. You don't need to have loads of legal experience to apply for things. And most of the time, people coming into uni as a first year won't have a lot of experience. Firms and chambers won't expect you to. They're just looking for kind of tangible skills, things like attention to detail, organization, time management, leadership, teamwork, those kind of things, which you can pull from so many different experiences. So your like part-time job can be honestly one of your biggest tools in an application. You might think that it wouldn't make sense for you to put something like working in Superdrug or at McDonald's on a Saturday on your application, but it's such a useful thing to have because you will gain so many experiences from that. You have to remember that the legal profession is really client facing, and being in those kind of jobs means that you will work with customers on a daily basis. So your communication skills will be really advanced just from doing those kind of jobs. Obviously, aside from that, if you wanted to get more kind of legal experience, you can use things like Bright Network to join networking events and get to know other people from the legal profession. You can also use things like Forage, which is like an online platform where loads of firms have kind of virtual experience programs, which you can complete if you want to do something specific to a certain firm that you want to apply to. There's also other kind of companies on there that offer programs, banks offer programs on there. So it's not just law. If you wanted to have a look around and see what you might be interested in, it's definitely a good site to look at. And then, of course, looking at things like Legal Cheek, they just have that website has kind of general information about firms on it. And also something like Vantage, you could look to sign up to, where firms can kind of reach out to you with opportunities. And then even just like local firms on the high street and businesses, there's always experience opportunities there. And then I think Waleed's going to talk a little bit about professionalism.
So professionalism is a very key aspect just before you even start preparing for the application cycle, because to learn how to even get into networking or get to even talking to any law firms, you need to be professional in a sense that your emails have to be professional. It ensures structure and organization. You're not going to miss out anything if you know what you're going to do. Like, to give you some sort of analogy, if you were to take someone who has a CV that, like, just like blabbers about whatever his interpersonal skills are, and just like, has no organization and just bullet points everything down without any organization, no law firm or anyone in general is going to look at his CV compared to someone who's more organized and has labels, subheadings, starts preparing on his resume in a professional manner, and then writes emails and applications in a professional manner as well. So those are very key aspects to even get into the application cycle beforehand. Research, 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 and network. So researching is a very important phase again in the application cycle. I think it goes above everything because you need to know what you're applying to. You really need to know about the firm. Think about the firm or any place, any job or application you apply to. Just think about it like a family. You need to have knowledge of that family to be considered a family, and they'll only take you in when you kind of fit their values and their morals, and that really comes by research, whether or not you find out that you fit with them or not. And in a way, that develops commercial awareness, because you not only now know what the firm does in its dealings, but you know, like, you have a whole wide aspect of all the types of companies and businesses, what type of dealings they do. So it develops on that point as well. And researching in general, like, you'll know the deadlines, you'll know what to include in the application, and you just get better at dealing with any stressful situations, such as interview questions where they might ask you, uh, so and so deal we had with this uh, XYZ company, what did we do in that? And there are chances that an interviewer might ask you something like that. So it's always good to be prepared and have knowledge. It really, like, stands out when a business looks at you and they know that this person that they're interviewing is knowledgeable about them. Yeah, Grace, do you want to take over
Yeah.
networking?
I think just as well, just one last point on researching. I think someone said to me once that a really easy way to check if you've researched enough is in your application. If you could change the firm name and the whole application would still make sense, it's not tailored enough, because your application should be so tailored to the firm in the sense that you've read about deals, you kind of understand about like diversity and inclusion targets they might have and why they have them, things like that. And just showing that maybe you've taken interest in something additional like their pro bono work or international common opportunities, firms will be able to see that as an extra effort. So I think that's quite a good way to kind of actively assess what Waleed's explaining in terms of checking whether or not your applications are tailored enough. If you could swap the firm name or the chamber name and it would still make sense, you probably need to go back and do some more research. And I think networking as well, so I'll talk a little bit about that. So our old careers officers and Anya and Grace, they both already made a whole video on how to network and use your LinkedIn. So we're going to upload this video onto our YouTube channel, so we'll make sure that this other video is linked in the kind of caption bit underneath, but go and watch that video to get a proper in-depth explanation of kind of how to use your LinkedIn. But more generally, as like Law Society, we host so many events throughout the year where you have great opportunities to network with people in the legal profession. We obviously host things like the careers dinner, which is a great opportunity to actually be able to sit down properly with someone for a longer period of time and talk to either kind of representatives from the firm, but also other students about what they might be doing in their applications. And I think getting that experience and hearing directly from potentially trainees or associates or future trainees in the firms, you'll actually be able to properly understand what that firm is looking for, and then you can kind of realize how to tailor your application a bit more. Aside from that, we have things like meet the first year schemers and meet the VAC schemers, where you can network with other Warwick students who have kind of been in the same position you are, and get their advice about how to manage the application process. And aside from that, we're hoping to do a lot of collabs this year with other societies, which should hopefully expose you to a wider variety of employers inside and outside kind of like the legal market. But I think the main thing with networking is, like we were saying in the last slide, is to remain professional. You have to remember that you're in a professional environment. So obviously behaving in a way that you would be happy for someone else to see. If you're at a networking event, making sure that you're kind of there prepared with questions and that you're being really enthusiastic, just because that kind of additional effort, it will mean a lot to like graduate recruiters. And if they've seen you at a networking event and can remember you, and then you go and interview at that firm, it will give you something to talk about, because you can actually say, I came to one of your events and I spoke to a future trainee, and these are the XYZ reasons why I want to work at your firm. So networking is a great way to kind of build on your research and show your commitment.
Yeah, so now we're moving on to the second bit, which is like during the application cycle, where we're going to manage how to deal with applications and studying. So I think Grace and I, we're going to talk about the first point. We're going to kind of give our own experiences. So I'll start with my one first. So when I was applying in second year, I'm a third year student right now. So when I was applying in second year, it was actually quite tough for me to balance studies and applications, because I realized applications are like a second job or a second uni. Like they're very stressful, and they can get very hectic at points, because you don't know how much research you've done, you don't know how much like how many networks you have, how many connections you have. um, those are all very important things when you're also studying at the same time. So it can get very troublesome, and I advise that you should set up maybe a timetable for yourself. Start maybe researching early, and start working on applications every day. It's all honestly better to work on an application every day for 1 hour, rather than at the end of the week for 5 hours, because it's just not, it's not possible to work on it near the deadline. And to be prepared for the deadlines also, you need to really do your research when the deadlines are, and definitely discuss and talk to other people. Have maybe a small group chat between yourselves, and discuss, keep each other motivated through the studies and applications. And yeah, that's my experience. Grace, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I think when I came into first year, like you can feel like you're really thrown in the deep end. I remember like joining kind of the law sort of group chats and seeing like all these events that were happening. I think one thing to remember is that you don't have to go to everything. Go to the things that you know are going to help you. There were so many things on in kind of like first term. There was literally an event every day between like different firms hosting their own um like platforms, like Vantage hosting events, Legal Cheek hosting like law fairs, and then other societies hosting things as well. So just remember, you don't need to go to everything. What I found quite helpful was kind of doing a bit of research during Freshers Week and finding, obviously enjoy yourself in Freshers Week, but going through and just in the day, maybe just set an hour to just look at kind of events that are available in different societies and through these platforms, and choose some that you want to go to. When you sign up to an event, it is really important to commit to it, because a lot of the time firms can obviously see once you've registered for an event, and if you take a place, they expect you to show up, because obviously your space could have been someone else if you didn't want to go. So if there's ever a time where you've booked onto an event and then something's come up, just email the people in charge of it, and just let them know that like you might not be able to go. That's always better than just being a no-show. There's been times when I had like a little emergency and I couldn't go to the thing I'd signed up to. I emailed the contact email and just let them know that I couldn't, and it went so fine after that, and I booked on events after, and they were happy to give me a space again because I'd let them know. I think as well, one piece of advice that I got given was to treat your applications like an extra module, in the sense that you should timetable it in. You wouldn't give all your time to one module, and you shouldn't give all your time to applications. You should have a split between both. Ultimately, like you're at uni to get a degree, and whatever kind of offer you got for a job, you need a certain grade for it. So make sure you leave enough time for your studies. Try and take it slowly with applications. Do a little bit each day if that works for you. Have one day in the week or 2-3 days in the week where you might spend a bit more time on them, but just make sure that you're not giving too much time to one area. And obviously at the same time, like it's really important that you still look after yourself. It can get really, really stressful in the application process, and it's very easy, I found, to get caught up in a cycle of just like going to the library and sitting there and like doing applications and work, and then like running back and having a social time, and then like you actually realize that you're always around people or your laptop. So just take an hour a day to just breathe and like take a bit of time for yourself, because that's still like just as important. But obviously we're always here if you had questions or we're getting a bit stressed, we can kind of have a longer conversation about our experiences and talk you through it.
Definitely. So again, Grace, do you want to do the
Yeah.
practicing psychometric tests?
Yeah, so I can run through psychometric testing stuff. So a lot of firms have things like the Watson Glaser on their application process. My best advice with that from my own experience is don't try and cram it. When you do the first Watson Glaser test, your score probably won't be that high. I don't think people talk about that enough. It's not something that's like a natural capability that some people have to pass it and some people don't. You can train yourself and build a skill with it. My best advice with psychometric tests, I bought an assessment day pack, which cost me £15. You don't need to buy things. If you were going to, I would say that's probably the one that I've been told was the best value. And I did find it really helpful just to improve my confidence. But if you don't want to buy things, there's so many kind of online sites with Watson Glaser practice tests available, and we'll probably give a list of that kind of stuff out when we run our first commercial awareness session. We'll try and give a resource list for that, but just practice with it. It's not a thing that comes to a lot of people naturally. So don't feel down if you do the first test and you don't perform very well. I can say from my own experience, my scores were significantly lower when I did the first tests, just because I'd never done one like that before. So take it slowly. Be aware also that some firms might have their own test. That's not a Watson Glaser. So they might have like situational judgment, things like that, which you can still practice. Normally on their website, they'll have their own practice test if it's something that's different to a Watson Glaser. But I'd say definitely, like, remember it's a skill you can develop, take it slowly, and just don't get down if you feel like you're not doing that well on them at first. Just take your time and keep trying with it, and you'll get there.
Mhm. Yeah. So the third point is asking for help. So definitely, Grace, I think, mentioned this again before, that we're always here to help. You can ask me or Grace, but it is very important to ask for help, because again, you never know, like, you're reading so many applications, doing so much research. That definitely has a mental toll on you. So you never know what you're actually, you could be writing something else, or the grammar could be off. So you always need to ask other people for proofreading, whether that be applications or even essays, any formative essays or summative essays. It's always a good idea to get it proofread by anyone else, because at the same time, whatever you might be saying or reading might not stand out to the recruitment team on the opposite side. They might not think that it is something, that's worth considering. So it's always a good idea to ask someone senior or someone who's qualified to really proofread. Maybe Grace will definitely introduce her interactive milk round. She worked on it a lot. So she like set up a couple of contact points for each commercial firm, and we're slowly starting to work our way into the non-law route / non-commercial route. So you can definitely use those contact points to check your application, if they're okay with that, if they have the time, or if not, we can definitely help you out, as well as I'm sure every exec in the Law Society is up for any help, whether or not you reach out to them or you just, we're probably going to be even doing events on it in the near future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like with the milk crown, like we'll do probably a quick rundown video going through it, because it's slightly different this year. But there is like a table at the bottom of it that has contact points for different firms, like Waleed said. So we've added that in to try and help you if you had specific questions about firms. Obviously, we're happy to read any application, but we don't know every detail about every firm. So we just wanted to give you a contact point if you had a really specific question about maybe a deal that you read that you didn't understand. You might be able to message that person, and obviously they're going to be a bit more experienced, because a lot of the contacts on there are people who have applied for the same scheme you might be applying for and got onto it, or some of them are even kind of future trainees and stuff. So definitely have a look at that, but we'll probably run through that in a separate video and kind of explain it a little bit more.
So this is the cycle outline that we were talking about in the beginning. So as you can see, number one is the beginning. This is like somewhere roughly around August till October. This is where you're probably going to be doing your main research and / networking or gaining experience, somewhere around there, like in these couple of months. And then you move on to the middle, which is November till February. This is where you're going to be doing the maximum writing of your applications. Like this is where you're going to stress yourself out. This is where the management comes in. So you definitely need to have some preparation beforehand. And that's why number one, August till October is very important. Researching is definitely important. And as well as building your resume with experiences and networks. And then the end comes in around March till June. This is where usually people are starting to receive responses back from firms. Maybe you might be called in for an interview around this time or earlier, depends on when you apply. And well, the end generally isn't really the end, because even in June, some firms are still open. Even businesses and local organizations that deal with anything legal or non-legal, they're still open. You never know. You could just apply or even shadow them for a day or for a week. You really need to reach out to them, and that's where professionalism again comes in when you're reaching out to the people. And like that, the cycle repeats every year. And so we'll move on to our conclusion. So in conclusion, we covered preparation of the application cycle and managing the application cycle. And in the preparation, the four main golden points to note is that you definitely need to do a lot of research. Honestly, that's the main important point that we're trying to put through. That's, I think, our biggest advice, definitely for anyone who wants to apply to any firm or business or anything in general. And definitely build on your resume, network, gain experience throughout the summer, whenever you can, even during the term time. You just need to know how to balance it and manage it. And again, in balancing your studies with your applications, it definitely takes some trial and error, but you need to continue and start pushing yourself through it. Honestly, definitely ask for help, and definitely please don't ever get stressed out. We're always here. We're here for you, and you can definitely reach out to us or any of the contact points that Grace is going to put on the interactive milk round.
Yeah, so we hope this video has been helpful, and if you have any questions, just feel free to let us know and we can hopefully give you an answer to those as well.